Welcome everyone to Mozart Eine Kleine Nachtmusik analysis of the Section B trio. What you'll need before we start is a blank score to write up any of the notes from this analysis, up to 8 different colour pencils because we're going to be discussing the different elements, and this is going to help when you write it on the score, and also a blank piece of paper to answer any questions that I'm going to have throughout this analysis. Why do we analyse? It's to understand how Mozart composed, to understand how he's used the different elements in his composition, but also it'll help you when you are composing. So by you composing and understanding, it's going to make yours even better. Right, we're going to be looking at section B of the trio. And we're going to be looking at the following elements: structure, dynamics, articulation and texture. So get your pencils ready. To start with, we're going to look at structure. So this is the longest section out of all of the other sections in the minuet and trio. So, minuet section A, minuet section B, and trio section A are 8 bars long, but the trio section B is 12 bars long. So this is the longest section that we have, and you can probably see that looking at the score now, how big it is. It's much longer than the other sections. Looking at dynamics now, the dynamic at the start of section B of the trio is forte, and that lasts from bars 25 to 27. When we get to bar 28, you'll notice that there's a diminuendo. That's found in violin 1 and violin 2. And then, when we get to bar 29, the dynamic is piano, or sotto voce if you're in violin 1. So as you can see, in those few bars, he's managed to really transform the dynamics of starting loud, then gradually getting quieter. To almost, remember, sotto voce means almost a whisper. In terms of the articulation, from bars 25 to 36, it's still a mixture of legato in violin 1, violin 2 and the viola, and you can see that with the arch that I'm just using my cursor on. So this is legato, so we play it smooth, and staccato, which is used in the cello, and you can see the dot, which is above or below the note. That tells us to make it detached. When we're looking at the texture from bars 25 to 28 is homophonic. That's because violin 1, violin 2 and the viola are moving in harmony. So I've just put a box around that. That would be described as a homophonic section because everything is moving at the same time but in harmony. When we get to bars 29 all the way to 36, Mozart has gone back to a melody and accompaniment texture. So violin 1 plays the melody, which I've just outlined there in a box, and violin 2, viola and cello play the accompaniment, which is just there. There is one more thing I want to add about the structure, and it's down here where it says menuetto da capo. This means go back to the minuet. So when you read this, as a musician, when you get to this point, once you've repeated it, because we have repeat marks there, once you've repeated it, you have to go all the way back to the minuet. We're going to look at that later, but that's a really important thing to note. And also, when you're analysing this piece of music in your exam, you might be given a blank score. And they might say, what section is this? This is another little cheat to know that you were in section B of the trio, because that's the only time that you will see menuetto da capo. And you'll only see that in section B of the trio. We're going to have a very quick recap, so it's a good opportunity to pause the video, read these statements and correct the mistakes. Pause the video and correct the mistakes. Here's the answers. Hopefully you got them correct. If you got any of the answers incorrect, please go back over the video and review your answers and review the video so you learn from it. Right, so we're now looking at melody and rhythm. The first thing to note is section B of the trio has a new melodic idea. This means that this is a brand new melody, and we would describe this melody as conjunct and ascending, so it's going higher, and descending, so it's going lower, as you can see with the arrows. So it's moving in step, the melody, and it's going high, then low, high, and then low again. The new melody is only short. It's very short, really. It only lasts from bars 25 to bars 28, this melody. So it's a very short melody, only lasting 4 bars. And I've just put a box around it because that's the melody in violin 1. Something else to note at the very beginning is there is an anacrusis. Remember, an anacrusis is an upbeat. However, this is now played on violin 1, violin 2 and the viola. The anacrusis has never been played by more than 2 instruments. So in this section it's played by 3 instruments, this quaver anacrusis. So that's something that's really interesting to note. Although this is the trio section B, Mozart has returned the melody from section A, from bars 29 to 36. So this melody here, da 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 da, is the melody from section A. Although this is trio section B, he has just returned it. The melody from bars 29 to 36 is also conjunct. It's moving in step. And just like before, this melody from bars 29 to 36 is chromatically altered. And we know this because of the added sharps, the added accidentals, which I've just highlighted now. So we know that this is also chromatically altered because of the added accidentals. Something else to note as well is we have a return of the octave leap in the cello from bars 29 to 36. So if you remember, it goes bum, 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 bum. And there is the octave leap. So it goes to show that he has returned, basically, the trio section A. So we've returned it. This is going to add a bit of balance, which is something that was used in the classical period. Balance. It's also used a sequence in bars 33 and 34. Remember, this sequence here in bars 33 to 34 is just taken from bars 31. Da 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 da. He's copied and pasted it, just made it lower and then lower again. So a little sequence that's been used. In terms of the rhythm, what's really interesting at the start of trio section B, what's really interesting is the bass plays on beats 1 and 3 from bars 25 to 27. We can see that there. So beat 1, followed by beat 3, beat 1, then beat 1 and beat 3. It's a bit irregular. However, when you get to bars 28 to bars 34, the bass now plays on beats 1 and 2, which is a bit more regular, a bit more balance. 1, 2, 1, 2. So again, big differences. Although this is trio section B, there is 2 big differences in this section. Something else to note about the rhythm is section B, from bars 25 to 27, it's mainly quavers. So if you're looking here, where my cursor is, this is bar 25, 26 and 27. All Mozart is doing is he is mainly using quavers in this section. So this small little section is just quavers. And I've just put a box around it, the yellow box, to show that there's mainly quavers there. However, from bars 28 to 36, he's now using a bit more variety. So he's now using dotted rhythms, which I've just circled. So he's now got a bit more variety. He has used the supportive quaver accompaniment. That can also be described as broken chords or a rocking bass, and that's found in violin 2 and the viola. I've just put a box around it, so we have the supportive quaver rhythm. And I just want to recap that although this is trio section B, there is variety. So we have new melodies and then old melodies returning. Right, we're just going to recap the whole structure of the minuet and trio. So the minuet we would call section A. We do know that the minuet has 2 sections in it, but if we just look at the minuet, we would just call that A because it's the first big piece that we listen to. When the trio comes in, we would call that B. But remember, we had that menuetto da capo, so we're just doing a bit of recap. What does it mean and what happens next? Pause the video to write down your answer. Welcome back. Hopefully you worked out that menuetto da capo meant go back to the minuet. So therefore, we would go back to A, or the minuet. This is called ternary form. So if we were to look at the whole piece, the minuet and the trio, we would be in ternary form, ABA. This adds balance, which was typical of the classical period. So we've brought back almost like a full circle. We've come back to the beginning. So minuet, trio, back to the minuet. And it's that nice round structure to the piece, which is used quite a lot in the classical period. Right, we're now going to be looking at the harmony and tonality of trio section B. Remember, harmony means chords, tonality means the key. And the key to start with is still D major. So start of trio section B is D major. We still have the 2 sharps, although they're not showing here, the key signature, we still have the 2 sharps. At bar 28, the music briefly modulates to A major. This is due to the G sharp, which we can start to see crop up there. This is hinting at it being A major. So when we come to bar 28, which is just there, we're in A major. So we've briefly changed key. However, when you come to bar 29, which is just here, we've gone back to D major. So that's something to note. We're going to just analyse this section to start with, looking at the chords. So we're going to understand what the chords are here. So first of all, remember we're in D major, and Mozart has used an A chord here, which would be called chord 5. Bar 25, beat 3, he's used chord 5 again, but in first inversion. In other words, instead of playing the A in the bass, remember an A chord is A, C, E, he's put the C in the bass, so we call that first inversion. When you come to bar 26, he's used a D chord. So again, this is the first chord, chord 1, in the key signature. When we come to bar 27, this is where things get a bit tricky. We would call this chord 2. But this time we have chord 2, 3 sharp 7. In other words, you make the 3rd sharp, which is the G sharp, so we're going to make it a sharp, and then you add the 7th note higher. So we're in the chord of E, 7 notes higher, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Now, When we see a 7, we usually class this as a dominant 7th. This is called a pivot chord. This means it can belong in 2 different keys. In A major, this would be chord 5 or 5-7, the dominant chord. Because remember, we have modulated, we have changed key. When we come to bar 28, that will be chord 1. This would be a perfect cadence. Chord 5, followed by chord 1, this would be a perfect cadence in A major. This is how we know we have changed key. This is tricky stuff. I'm not going to lie, this is tricky stuff, and what I would recommend is maybe pause the video to write up the notes and just let them sink in, and then maybe rewind and go over this part again. But as you can see here, we've got a perfect cadence in A major because of the pivot chord that we've come to. So pause the video to go over these notes, over this section, and to just let it digest. Moving on. When we get back to 25, from bars 25 to 27, we would call, from 25 to 27, we would call this harmonic rhythm, remember the speed of the chords, it would feel quite quick here. This is because he's using inversions, as you can see here, so we've got first inversion, and also because he's changing key as well, so it feels like it's moving, it's going a bit higher. So it feels quicker. From bars 25 to 27, the music can feel quicker because of the harmonic rhythm. Remember, when we get back to 28, which is when we get back to 29, which is here, we've gone back to D major, so make a big note of that, D major. So bars 29 and 30, we have a D chord, which is chord 1. 31 and 32, we have the dominant 7th chord, which is an A chord. And just as before, the harmonic rhythm from bars 29 to 32 is slow, because it's only using 1 chord for 2 bars. So we have D for 2 bars, then we have A for 2 bars. So it can feel quite slow. When we come to bars 33 and 34, it starts to feel a bit quicker, because we have a D chord here, followed by a B chord. So now, instead of doing 1 chord every 2 bars, he's now doing 1 chord every bar. So we have a D chord, and then we have a B chord here. And remember, B is minor. When it's a little Roman numeral, it is minor. Bar 35, the harmonic rhythm is going to feel quicker. This is because he's now using 3 chords in the bar. So we have 2B, or chord 2, first inversion. So chord 2 is an E chord, E, G, B. But he's decided to put the G in the bass. Then he's done chord 2 again, but with the E in the bass. Then he's done an A chord, or a 5-7 chord, or a dominant 7th chord, we'd call that. And then in bar 36, we have the D chord, chord 1, which would help to create a perfect cadence, making it sound finished. It's a good opportunity at this moment in time to pause the video and to make any notes and to let it digest, because harmony and tonality is the trickiest section. Right, let's see what you can remember. You're going to recap by writing down as much as possible about section B of the trio on a separate sheet of paper. Try not to look at your score, and if possible, try to include bar numbers. Focus on the following elements: melody, dynamics, texture, harmony, instruments, and rhythm. Pause the video. Well done. Section B is now complete. You now have a full analysis of all the sections of Eine Kleine Nachtmusik. Remember to recap, remember to go over. Hopefully your score is going to be colourful, which means it will stand out, and this will help when you are revising because the colours are associated with the elements. Well done. Excellent work.